This is the plaintiff, Horace Marucci. He says he hired the defendant to paint his new condo in Florida, and when he arrived to inspect the job, it looked as though nothing was done. The defendant insists it was indeed painted. He begs to differ, so here they are. He's suing the pathetic painter for $2,500, the amount he gave him for doing nothing. This is the defendant, Joseph Anthony. He says he has no idea why the plaintiff is suing him. Thinks the guy's gone off the deep end and he's gone on a rampage to ruin his reputation. The plaintiff hired another painter who painted accent walls when he was only hired to paint them white. And he thinks he's just trying to get a free paint job out of him, which is simply not fair. He's accused of poor painting.
All parties, please raise your right hands. Proceed to come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas. Horace Marucci?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing Joseph Anthony for $2,500 for a paint job you say you paid him for on your condo and did not occur. Tell me what happened.
Your Honor, in the summer of 2011, my wife and I purchased a two-bedroom condominium in Pompano Beach, Florida. The unit came what they call decorator-ready condition. Floors done, kitchen finished, but the ceilings, walls, woodwork, doors, trim, all unpainted, somewhat primed, but needing a final coat of paint. We came back in January of 2012 to decorate and get it painted. At that time, Mr. Joseph Anthony was working as the concierge for the developer in our building and also running a small resident-only cafe in the building. In addition to that, he would do odds and ends for the residents in the building. Pick them up at the airport, drop them off, wash their floors, and so on and so on, anything that they needed. He seemed knowledgeable. We met him, and I asked him, do you know of a painter that perhaps could help me paint and finish my unit? He says, oh, I do that all the time for the units in this building. I'll gladly take care of it for you. So I brought him up to my unit in 512. We agreed on a price of $2,500 to paint the 3 rooms. And based on his recommendation, I purchased 10 gallons of paint for the walls, 5 gallons of paint for the ceiling, 2 gallons of semi-gloss paint for the woodwork. I gave him $2,500 cash.
The paint for the walls was what? Eggshell, matte?
Matte. It was matte, yes. It was matte paint. At that time, I gave him $2,500 cash and a key to the unit and went back to Jersey pretty much. Actually, before we left, we wanted to try out the color, so I painted the bathrooms.
Why would you pay him before he paints?
I painted just the bathroom.
Why would you pay him in full before he paints?
Because I checked him out with his
What difference? Look at you now. How'd that work out for you? Why would you pay anybody, even your brother, in full before he paints? Or, you know, I mean... Right?
Looking back, you're absolutely correct. I've taken much heat from my own wife of doing that. But
I bet you have, cowboy. All right, so then what happened? So you paid him in full, then you left, and then you came back when?
At the time, it seemed to make sense.
Yeah.
During that summer, while we were gone, I called a number of times. I could never get a hold of him, but I did leave many, many messages. But late August, I finally did get a hold of him. He assured me the work was done and completed. Seemed all was okay. In October of that same year, last year, my wife and I went down looking to buy some furniture, and we walked in and we were shocked to find the paint exactly in the same place. If I could pass on.
Sure.
The paint was exactly the same place where we left it. That's Exhibit 1. Exhibit 2.
Untouched. Rollers untouched. Paint unopened. Walls.
Exhibit 2 is the walls. There were the marks that were made when they did the floors, and just showing as best as I could evidence that nothing was done on the walls.
Didi, so what'd you do?
I was in shock and unsurprised because he told me it was done. Yes, she was.
Yeah, so here's where you really get the I told you so. Yes. And then what?
That is correct. I tried to reach Mr. Anthony, and after a couple of days, I got a hold of him into the cafe where he was working downstairs. I asked him, Joseph, what happened with my unit? You promised it was done. He goes, it is painted. I said, we must be talking about a different unit. 512. It has been painted. I said, the paint has not been touched. He says, well, we were painting a different unit on your floor, and we used leftover paint from the other unit.
Why would you permit that? You picked the paint in the color that you wanted.
I obviously did not know about it. In any case, I said, that doesn't make sense. You need to come up.
Why would he think you would permit that is what I meant.
You need to come up so we can discuss what needs to be done. I said, I need to get this place fixed up. He says, I'll
It'll
come
be your
up.
turn when he's done. Hold on. Yeah.
I said, by all means, come on up. A couple of days passed.
Wait, why didn't you just come on up that second?
He was working in the cafe at the time. Ran a small cafe in the building for the residents, so he was not able to come up. But he said
What
he would
about
come.
when he's done with the shift or when he closes the place? So why don't you have like an appointment, a
Agreed.
time that you two set where you make him go
That
up?
is correct. He would come up when the cafe was closed. And
Did he ever come up?
He did not come up at all to my unit. In January of this past year, we went back again down there. I was able to go down, and I tried to reach him. At this point, he was no longer employed by the developer.
That's the problem with waiting a year.
He was no longer employed by the condominium association to run the cafe, but I understood he was still working for a couple of the residents doing odds and ends things at this time. I tried to reach him, I could not. At that point, I had to move forward, so I called a local painter that was introduced to me, Mr. Kevin Campbell. In fact, I had hoped to have him here as a witness, but he wrote something down for me indicating that the unit had not been painted and only primed at best, and that's all that was done.
What's going on?
Well, pretty much to the point of Mr. Horace stating that there's a little difference in the time frame.
Did you paint his walls or didn't you?
We sprayed them. The example about the rollers not being touched, the painters in the building that I hired as a concierge worked for the developer painting a lot of the units. They work on the side, so they don't have to pay money to their employer. They sprayed the apartment.
I know
And
what you're
no,
talking
they
about.
did
I have
not.
pictures of the apartment. It looks like crap.
But they did not use the matte finish paint, which I told Horace about because of the conditions of the walls, the drywall. They were not
This
smooth.
isn't painted. Here,
Yes.
take that over to him.
Yes.
This isn't painted.
Yes. Let me
No,
see.
it's not. And
me
if it
see.
is, it's crappy. It's a terrible paint job.
They sprayed. They
I don't
sprayed.
care whether
They
it's
did not.
sprayed, spit on, hose down. I don't care how you did it.
Okay.
Look at that.
What-
You don't. Can I ask a question? You don't even go into these units, right?
Yes,
you
I
just
do.
take the money of the people
No,
and then
no.
you farm it out. You sub
No,
it to. You don't paint.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. So why is it so stupid to pay a painter in full before the job starts?
I wouldn't paint a painter in full before the job starts because he may not even come back, and I'll be the last person to get service.
So you go to the bottom of the food chain.
Exactly.
What do you think?
Yeah, you're prioritized very low, and it's human nature once you have the food.
And fair enough. And what about the job itself?
The job probably be terrible because he might just do a half job and he might just leave.
I love the way you said half job.
Yeah.
That was very good. By the way, can I just say, sorry, Justin, get your life together. Just get your life together. Things were going so well for you.
Yeah, a lot of people tell me that.
Yeah, going inside the courtroom.
You don't paint,
Okay.
right?
No.
Right. So you hire the painters and you give them the money and then they tell you it's done and then you think it's done. And do you even go inspect?
I worked for the developer at this time.
I don't care who you work for because everybody's doing this on the side. Do you
But we
go
painted-
inspect?
we were-
Look at
I
those
was in
pictures.
charge-
Please
okay.
look at those pictures.
I am. Your
Are
Honor,
you
I
looking
am.
at them?
Yes.
Is that a paint job?
When were these taken?
Well,
Because there's a time
here's
frame
the
here
thing.
that's very
Let me
different.
tell you when I think those were taken. We're talking about a guy who's so gullible. He hands
No.
you $2,500. Stop talking.
Okay.
He hands you $2,500 when he doesn't know you from a hole in a wall. Doesn't know if you're going to go through with it. You haven't started the job, and he's paid you in full.
Okay.
You think that guy was sentient enough to go ahead and take pictures of a job just in case he might need them later? That guy didn't take these pictures, and he took them when he got angry. He didn't get angry until he comes back and sees that it's untouched. And we know it's untouched because you have the gall to tell me, oh, it's untouched because they use other paint. First of all, let's just assume these walls look great, but they were the wrong color. What right do you have to choose to use other paint than the one he bought?
They used
Except
the
for that
flat-
they look like
used
this and the paint's untouched, so I'm pretty sure they weren't painted at all.
Your Honor, they use flat paint, but there's a 1.5-year time frame here since when we painted the job.
So?
When he came
You
to
didn't
me
paint the
late-
job. You never painted the job.
We did-
I'm
we
telling you, I'm looking at what.
sprayed- we
Show me the
sprayed
walls
the
that were
wall.
painted.
We
Show me
did-
the walls that were painted.
I have
Show
no
them to me.
photos because I had no access to his unit afterwards.
No, there's so none so blind as he who will not
But he
see.
never came
Why don't you
to
show me
me-
the affidavit from the people who actually sprayed it?
It was paid cash. And those workers, I talked to the
Oh,
developer.
I didn't even
they
get
were-
that there. That was my next question. Why
Yeah.
don't you show me that you paid somebody to paint it? That
We
was going to
paid
be the
them.
next thing. I was asking about an affidavit from them where they swear they painted
But,
it.
Your Honor,
how can I have this evidence? Tell me how I can
Okay.
have this evidence
All right.
if you are not a liar. Tell me how I
But
can
I'm
have this
not lying, Your Honor. When he came to...
Sir, how is it okay for you not to use the paint
We
color.
didn't use the.
How is it okay for you not to use the paint he asked you to use? How is that okay?
We did use the flat paint. We did not use the
How
matte
is it
finish.
okay for you not to use the paint he asked you to use?
But
He
we
bought a
did.
specific brand,
We
a
spray-
specific color, a specific. How is it okay for you to take $2,500 from somebody?
It's actually 21 and 3. Okay. The
Is it
cleanup-
21 or 25?
It's 25, but the windows and the cleaning were separate from the
Oh,
painting
I'm sure
itself.
that was done. This is what I got.
But Your Honor, when he came to the unit, when I surrendered the key to him, he accepted the unit, and all this time went past. He never once said anything to me, even at the cafe.
What are you talking about? October, he says the first thing he did was go to the unit and say, oh my God,
No.
get chastised by his wife, and immediately go and tell you, who are downstairs running the cafe at the
He
time,
never-
that he never told you he was unhappy?
Never, ma'am. He confronted me when I was in the pool one evening.
And said what?
You need to come up to my apartment. You need to come up to my apartment and come see. I said, and I was in the swimming pool.
Come see why?
Come see his apartment. I asked him
Come
why.
see why.
He never said why. I need you to come up and see. I didn't go up and see that night.
Are you suggesting
I went up the next
that
day.
he never
No, ma'am.
told you
No.
that the apartment
No.
was not
He
painted?
never-
How then
Judge.
did you ever explain to him that you used paint from another job?
We
He
to-
knew that because it's in the lawsuit, and you confess that that was what you did.
We did.
So he
We
clearly has complained to you before now
No.
that you're a crook.
In the beginning, because he said about the matte finish, it's actually a satin finish for us, that we did not use it. They sprayed everything. He never once contacted me during that whole time he was in the 2 seasons to come up and do any touch-up.
What do I do with this? It's not a matter of touch-up. This is
But
not a
that
matter of
could've-
touch-up.
but
This is
that-
primer on the walls. That's all this is.
No.
These are the same marks that were there when they put in the floors.
No.
I could tell nobody's ever painted this
Your
because
Honor,
I
they
can still see.
sprayed-
You need to press the off button on you right now.
Okay.
I can tell that nobody's ever painted this because I still see the dings and the nicks from whatever tools the klutzy people doing the floors were banging into walls about. That, when someone does a paint job, especially a paint job where you're charging $2,500 for 3 rooms, that gets smoothed over before it's painted. This has never been painted. Witness the fact that the paint is untouched. You can't get around the paint being untouched. You can't keep saying, well, use somebody else's paint. It's not your prerogative to use somebody else's paint. Even if he didn't have these pictures, you'd still have to return the money. But when you don't use his paint and I see these pictures, I know the same thing he knows. You got taken. $2,500
Your Honor,
verdict
no.
for the plaintiff. You're done. Pay the man. And honestly, you make sure that a copy of this trial goes to everybody using him in that building.
Well, this defendant was still talking there as the judge was ruling and against you. What more do you have to say?
She didn't let me explain how the units are sold. They're designer ready. There are nicks in the walls. He didn't want to pay for the resurfacing of the walls.
So he didn't prep the walls.
No, the units are primered. We sprayed. It's a different finish.
How has all
lived
this
there-
affected your business?
Greatly. And he's been slandering me in the building and stuff. It's made me very uncomfortable in the building.
Mm-hmm. No more paint jobs
We
coming
subbed
to
it
you?
out.
All right. Head
All
right
right,
around
thank
this
you.
way. Okay.
All
Thank you.
right.
All right, sir. So come on in here. Are you satisfied how this comes out?
I am very satisfied. Came out very satisfied.
Yeah. The wisdom of paying up front like that?
Unfortunately, I'm nearly 70 years old. I've made a mistake a number of times, but it only turned out to be a mistake this one time. In the past, I've dealt with very honest, reputable people, and it's always worked out.
Will you pay your next person up front like that?
I guess
Or
I'll do better homework in the future.
How about half up front and half when the job's done? Just a
Yes,
suggestion.
it makes only sense.
Harvey?
Okay, when you hire somebody to perform a service, at the very least, what you should do is send an email to that person specifying the scope of the work. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.